Welcome to the Spirit-Centered Business Podcast, where we blend the spiritual with the practical for supernatural results. Now, here is your host, Bralynn Newby.
Hello there. Welcome to Spirit-Centered Business. Look who I have on. This is Brian Orme, you guys. The second time he's been on the show. Welcome back, Brian.
It's great to be back. Good to see you as always. Hope you're well.
Awesome. Yeah, doing well. Thank you. Nice to see you too. So I just wanted to have you jump on because we're celebrating your book. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be the big highlight of what we're going to talk about, but I do want to catch up on other things too. So I'll give you the floor. What do you want to talk about first?
Yeah, we could talk about the book. Might as well start here. Here it is.
House of Many Waters.
You should be getting your copy very soon. It's in
Awesome.
transit currently.
That is very cool. Very cool. I happen to be in Wisconsin at my parents' house, so it'll be like a surprise when I get back home.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Early Christmas for me. Yeah.
And so it's quite a journey, this book. It started actually in 2009. So I'd met a guy as a result of a dream. And so in the dream, I saw this guy's name, and it was a unique spelling of a name. And so in the dream, I just remember like, oh, that's an interesting way to spell that name. And so we end up meeting. And then from there, probably about 6-8 months later, it built into a conference in Las Vegas. And we're speaking, and he comes up at the very end of the conference and he starts to prophesy. And he says, you're going to produce a movie and it's going to be a blockbuster. And you ever get one of those words where you're just like, I don't even know what to do with this thing?
Yes.
So I didn't like reject it. I just like, well, okay. And I put it on a shelf, so to speak. And then probably just about a year later, maybe a little under a year, I'm with a different friend who's a new friend. And we're hanging out, our wives, having dinner. And he says, man, every time I look at you, I keep seeing like a movie. It's like a big movie. And I start cracking up. I was like, well, I got this other word. So I'm like, oh, all right, God, I'm paying attention. Still don't know exactly what to do here. But what I did is, well, what would it be? What would I do? I just started dreaming, like, and so anime is like been a big part of my life. It's a huge medium to communicate, especially supernatural themes. And a lot of it is communicating those types of things, but more from a dark perspective. And a big part of anime is very much connected to the porn industry. A lot of the anime studios are actually completely connected to porn studios.
Oh my gosh, I did not.
They're trying to get children connected into that, so they're kind of lifelong customers in a sense.
Oh, geez.
And so I've always had a heart to just, man, it'd be great to bring some kingdom into the space. So I created a world, who the characters be, what's kind of the storyline, and just sat on it. So this is 2010, right?
Yeah.
And then 10 years later, I'm at another conference in Texas. And this woman comes up. She's from the Philippines. She's in the US now. And she says, hey, tell me about your life. And so I started telling her about my life. And it's pretty wild and some crazy things along the way. And she says, we're going to make a movie about your life. And I just all of a sudden felt the presence of God. I was like, well, I already know what it is. Because this book is actually based on my life.
Oh, that is
so obviously there's creative license, but it's inspired by true events. And so I said, I already have the story. I've got characters, everything. And so I talked to a friend who's a fantasy writer. And I said, hey, what if we kind of work together? Because I've written books, but I haven't written this style, which is called Manga. It's a very specific style of writing. And I haven't done that before, but he has. And I said, why don't we just work together? I'll frame it out for you, kind of fill in the gaps. And that's what we did. And so that began in 2021, that process. Took us forever to find an artist. We had a bunch of artists flake out. And then we just found this incredible artist. I mean, as you can see, the art is crazy good.
Yeah.
And we just told him the vision, and he came up with that cover in about 3 days. Wow. And I was like, dude, like, you get it. Like, you understand what we're doing. And so here we are. It's going to come out officially. It'll be available next Monday, the 13th. I think that is November 13th.
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically a story of a guy named Zenith who represents me. And his father dies, is killed by kind of this mystical creature.
Mm-hmm.
And the last dying words of the father is find Alethea and find the house of many waters. And so Zenith's journey is trying to figure out who is this Alethea? Where is this house? Wrestling through his own identity, learning disabilities, bullies, and just trying to sort it all out. And realizing that he's a part of a much bigger story here that's much larger than himself. And so there's 4 novels at least. So this is kind of the first piece of the story, but it's got a lot of action, a lot of craziness, and a lot of kingdom. It's not a Christian book, but it's definitely a kingdom book.
Oh, nice. Very cool. So, does this have like a metaverse kind of video game feel to it that you're kind of thinking about? I don't remember. I did not refresh my memory on the conversation that we had last time, but I know that you're interested in that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was at one point I was going to be helping create a metaverse with a
Mm-hmm.
team. But then with where the economy went, money came away from metaverse and more into AI.
Oh,
It's where
okay.
all the VC money is right now.
Oh, okay.
But I learned a lot about it in that journey, and I've always been interested just because it's a fascinating kind of evolution of the internet.
Right.
If you think of Web 1, which is like when the internet first came out, and that was basically here's a text page with maybe a photo. It
Right.
was read only. Web 2 was like, Instagram comes out and Google and Facebook and so it's a little more interactive, JavaScript, and so you've got more dynamic types of content,
Mhm.
but it's still primarily read only and then write only as well. Web 3 is going to be read, write, and own. You're actually going to own things on Web 3 because it's going to be driven by the blockchain. And
Oh,
so,
yeah.
like, if you think of every stock eventually is going to be tokenized. Every commodity, every title, every patent,
Wow.
everything's going to be on the blockchain. And what that does is it verifies ownership. Like it's
Mhm.
connected, if you're the owner, it's connected to you and no one can manipulate or change that. And so it's gonna be really good. This next evolution. I'm excited because Web 2, we were the product, right? We
Yeah,
were
we are
being
the product.
advertised to, and now we're gonna be the owner, which is pretty awesome.
That is cool. Yeah. So I remember that we talked a little bit more about your story. We don't need to go over that again, but for the audience, if you want to go back, you can always go to spiritcenteredbusiness.com and just look for search for Brian, and you'll be able to get those episodes. That was probably about a year ago-ish,
Yeah.
or maybe even a little more. Because I joined your crypto stuff, which for the audience, Brian definitely has some great stuff on crypto. Do you still have a free workshop that people can get, that intro
Yeah.
workshop
It's
on your
called Go
website?
Crypto.
Yeah, yeah. You guys, that was so, so helpful to just kind of get your toes in the water, and Brian explains things so well over there. So anyway, that we did talk about, but in the book, what has been the reader's impression of the book so far? What kind of reviews do you have there, Brian?
Most of them are like, I can't put it down. Like just the way it reads. It's like you kind of get sucked into the characters and the
Okay.
story. And then there's others that really relate to, oh yeah, like I experienced learning disabilities and wrestling through that and
Mhm.
bullies. And so there's a lot of relatability, I think, for people with that in their
Cool.
own experience. Cause this is the first novel is based on me in kind of junior high, high school in that range.
Okay.
And so that's where a lot of relatability comes. Like, yeah, that's what I experienced in eighth, ninth grade. And so that's been super cool.
That is cool. Yeah. So
I'm
what
gonna
are
close my
the,
window real quick because someone's being loud out there.
okay, go ahead. I understand that.
There we go.
We couldn't hear it, so it was okay. Um, So that's book one. And so what are the next ones?
Yeah, so novel 2 and 3 we're working on right now. We're going to write them together.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be separate, but we're putting them all together. And so there's a lot of layers to this story and the world. And so book one, you kind of get hints at some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So if you remember Star Wars, I don't remember which of the first three it was back when they were first released, but there was this vague mention to like the Clone Wars. And
Mm.
like when we first watched it, I was like, what the heck is Clone Wars? Like, and so Clone Wars came later in the story, kind of like this is what that was. Is you kind of get these nods to certain pieces where like, I wonder what that is. And we'll start to see that in novel 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it gonna be prequel? Like this happened before? Or is it
Well, in book one, and it's gonna be similar in book 2, is there's
okay?
flashbacks. There's kind of like these, you're going back, you're going forward. There's a lot of timeline stuff going on.
Wow. Is that hard to write that way?
It's interesting because you have to remember, like, wait, where are we? We in the present? Are we in the future? Are we in the
Right.
past? Make sure it all
I have that
connects.
problem in regular everyday life. Was that a dream or was that a memory? Did somebody actually tell me that, or did I just imagine that?
That's true.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, so that is exciting. And are you writing with other people or just you alone, or what does that look like?
So there's this guy, David Waddell. He's a fantasy writer. He's a good friend. So we're doing
Okay.
this together.
Was that the guy that you were mentioning earlier?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, good. All right. Oh my gosh.
So
That's
we
so
just basically talk through the whole thing, and then
hmm
he starts filling in the gaps.
buddy system. Love it.
Yeah, the buddy system.
I just released my book. I wish I would have had a buddy system on that. It took a long time to get it out. Not quite as long as yours, but you had a lot of processing, like what do you want, Lord? Kind of.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And the hope is that this will be built into an animated series or a movie on the
that
screen.
would be so cool. Do you
Yeah.
have any bites on what that would look like, or anybody saying, "I got a guy"?
There's connections, but you kind of have to get proof of a concept that people want. And so that's kind of this first step with this first
Got
novel.
it.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, that is cool. So, what does your family think about this process?
They're loving it. I mean, the fam will be in future novels. My wife will be in the second one. The kids will be in the fourth one.
Oh, cool. Okay.
There's kind of these flash forwards too. I see these 2 children with me in the future when I didn't have a wife yet. And so it's like, I wonder what this is. And so they've actually helped with some of the story, kind of creating some of the pieces. That's been super cool.
Oh, that is cool. How old are your kids now?
Eowyn is a senior, she's 17, and then Liam is 13. He's in seventh
Wow,
grade.
that's precious that you guys all work together and do stuff fun together. That's so
Oh
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So tell me more about the kingdom stuff that's in the book. What can people like expect to see and be surprised about?
Yeah, so it's definitely a mystical kind of thread that's going throughout it.
Hmm.
And based on my personal journey, there's been a lot of mystical experiences, encounters. And so some of the encounters I have are literally written in the book in a manga style.
Mm-hmm.
And so even my father's death, I had an experience where I confronted a demonic prince on a mountain in Utah that I wasn't supposed to. There was no assignment to do so. I just felt like I'm going to do this.
Oh, wow.
And within 30 minutes, my dad was unconscious, 2 strokes, brainstem was bleeding, he's on the brink of death. It's a crazy story, but and then
Wow.
2 women called me who didn't know each other, like, "Hey, your dad's being attacked." And so I was like, "Lord, what's going on?" He says, "I didn't ask you to do this. Go on this mountain."
Oh,
He said, "You went outside your metron to do this."
oh, I have
I was
goosebumps.
like, "All right, Lord, well, I don't want to do that again." And then my dad was released 24 hours later. But I kind of use that experience in the book of it kind of represents him dying from this mystical kind of creature.
Wow.
And so it really comes down to light. And so there's these realms or spheres called pneuma spheres.
Uh-huh.
And so that's based on the Greek word pneuma, but it's spelled Nooma. And it's what allows light into creation. And there's this character, Abaddon, who's trying to kill off what are called lumens. Lumens are the protectors of the spheres.
Mhm.
So my father was a lumen, which I don't know until later. And so he finds out, which I can't spill the beans on that, how he finds out my dad was one. And then he dies. And that's his last words, find Aletheia, find the house of many waters. And so it's just this journey of encountering people and some people who are not just human along the way, who are helping try to guide me into the right place. And there's some
Wow.
pretty epic battle scenes as well in there that are pretty wild.
Very, very cool. Wow. That is so fun. So what did you learn along the way?
It was cool to write something different. Like I said, I've
Mhm.
written kind of a specific style.
Mhm.
And so it was a stretch at first, like, oh man, like, so I'd read manga novels, but it's kind of rereading them again.
Mm,
I was like, wow, this is such a different style of writing. And just the animation too is very different than what you'd see like a Pixar or Disney.
sure.
And so I kind of had to get back into that mode, so to speak, to really begin to see it properly in that context.
Yeah, I remember you described or told me manga the first time, and I was like, "What is that?" Because it's just like out of my grid of like that. So, what if you were to describe it to the audience? What would be different about manga? What, like, if we were
Yeah.
give us the Brian Orme Wikipedia version?
So manga it's a light novel. So like this book's I think 187 pages or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And there's a lot of action. And so it's like the action scenes are usually pretty intense. And then anime in general is kind of like a bit over the top in the description of things. And so even like the characters, the way they're drawn when they're doing something, it's like it's just kind of like this super animated kind of thing. So
Mhm.
that's a part of manga. And then it's typically there's different styles because to different audiences. And so our style is more for like probably 13 to 45 range is kind of what is typical um, in a manga
Uh-huh.
in that particular style that we're doing. And so because of that, there's a lot of action and it's a deeper kind of connection to characters as well. It's not kind of like just a surface kind of thing.
Mhm.
And so that's probably one of the coolest things about this is we're able to kind of go a bit deep into, for example, Zenith, the character based on me is there's one scene where these teachers are speaking things over me. And in the scene, the way it's described is there's things coming out of these entities floating into my head and establishing
Mm.
structures.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh,
it's
it's
kind of
right
like,
out of Romans. The
yeah,
enemy has built a base of operations inside you. Oh my gosh.
exactly. And so it's kind of like you're not just reading about, oh, the teacher's saying this. It's like you're kind of experiencing like what this actually is, even though
Wow.
physiological place. And so
Mhm.
it kind of opens up the possibilities to go a little deeper than you could maybe in a regular novel.
Oh, I love that. I really, it's visceral. Like when you think about what our frequency of our voice really does. I mean, that is the co-creating with the Lord, right?
Absolutely.
Wow. Very,
Yeah.
very, very cool. Yeah. So, anything else you wanna I don't know what questions to ask at this point because I haven't read the book. Like, if I would have had it in my hand.
That's funny. Well, if you're interested in getting it, it'll be on Amazon, all the places. But if you want a signed copy, you can go to houseofmanywaters.com starting on the 13th of November. You'll be able to order.
Good to know. Yeah,
Otherwise, it'll be on Amazon on the 21st, I think, of November.
okay. I
Yeah.
think this show will be airing, the first 2 segment 1 will be the first week of December, and segment 2 will be the second week. So
Perfect.
audience, yeah, it's already there. Make sure you go get it.
It's there. Go now.
Go now, exactly. Oh, by the way that I got involved was the Kickstarter campaign. How
Yeah.
did that go for you? Was that the first time you used that?
That's the first time I ever done a Kickstarter campaign. I was a little nervous because the cost of this was significant. The art was really expensive.
Yeah.
We kind of had this decision. It's like we can get lesser art for cheaper, but I was like, I just feel like we got to go with the good art. And so we originally had to raise 18,500 for everything. That's printing, distribution, it's all of it.
Wow.
And I was like, man, that's so much money. And I was like, well, I'll do 16,000 on the Kickstarter. So I set it at that as the goal. And I think we were probably maybe a week away or less. And we still had a good amount. And so I talked to David and I was like, I don't think we're going to reach the goal. Like, just based on reading about other campaigns and Kickstarter, like if you haven't reached a certain percentage at this stage, the possibility is very low.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, let's just kind of have like a plan B. And then I wake up and there's like, I think 6,500 to come in overnight. And
Thank
then
God.
within 2 days, we went, and here's the craziest part is we went to 18,500. So it went a little over exactly what we needed.
Oh.
So it was like God was like, yes, this is gonna happen. So
I love it when he does
that
that
was
kind
cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. Very, very cool. Are you going to do that again for your other ones?
We'll see. I mean, we're hoping this will just take off and
Yeah.
it'll be able to pay for the next.
Yeah, that would be cool. Was it difficult to do the Kickstarter for anyone who's watching and thinking about, wow, I need to do a fundraiser? Was it difficult?
I mean, it took a bit to set up, so like I'm a designer, so I design the stuff myself, but like to make it really kind of pop, there's got to be some design elements and a good flow. And so I kind of looked at some of the best performing ones with books and just kind of mimic some of the things that they did. And then just put it out there. And I was like, all right, hopefully people will be interested. And they were.
Yeah, well, from what I saw, it was really well done. And then you had, email sequences about it and some social media posts. I think I jumped on something that you were going live on YouTube or something like that. That's how I even found out about it. So
It's
yeah,
definitely a good amount of work, but
yeah,
if you believe in what you're doing, then it's worth it.
very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Anything else question that you wish I would ask about the book?
I mean, I won't spoil who the characters are, but there's 3 characters in there who represent the Trinity. That you don't really see until later. And so that's kind of a cool evolution, even just for the character Zenith. He doesn't realize this stuff until later on, but they're kind of always there at just the right moment, like one of them. And so that's kind of a cool thread.
That is a cool thread. All right. Well, let's wrap this up because I want to get to what else you're doing and the stuff that you're doing with Arun and whatever else is going on in the Bryan Orme world. We haven't even last time we didn't talk about your comedy. I want to find out about all that.
Yeah.
So let's wrap this one up and go to the next segment. So again, houseofmanywaters.com, or to get a hold of Bryan, it's iBorm, right?
Yeah, iborm.com.
iborm.com, like Jason Bourne, but Borm, iBorm.
Yeah, like the Borm identity.
The Borm identity. There you go. All right. Well, thank you again, Bryan, for this rundown, and just wishing you all the best on the book. This is so good. And I just, I know that book has been prayed over, and I just want to add my prayers to the prayers that are already infusing it with blessing, that even people who don't know the Lord will just like pick this up and go, ooh, I feel a connection here and want more.
That's the hope. Come on. Thank you, Jesus.
Yep, exactly. All right, you guys, stay tuned for next week with Bryan. Until then, stay spirit-centered. Peace out.
Hey there, SCB peeps. I want to give a huge shout out and deep appreciation and thanks to Candace Benton. She has become a super sponsor for the Spirit Centered Business Show. So I would appreciate you helping me in sending blessings and abundance back to her. Thank you so much, Candace, and you are well loved.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Centered Business with Bralynn Newby. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. The next stage of doing business by being spirit-centered is coming together in collaboration, working with spiritual principles and knowing our destiny. Join our tribe at spiritcenteredbusiness.com, and we'll catch you on the next broadcast. Peace out.